Greetings everybody, this brother from Final Noon, back once again making another video. Today's topic is the path of the shadow or the dark self. The path of the shadow or the dark self. Why is this important while walking on the left-hand path? Really, any path. More so on the left-hand path. First of all, the shadow or the dark self is a work that is facing the most destructive part of yourself, the destructive patterns, the destructive behaviors, the destructive ways that we have self-created over time due to our core issues, core beliefs, traumas, pains, and wounds. These ways, patterns, or behaviors are very important to understand. Very important to understand. Working on the shadow is basically remaining self-conscious through the process while you're working on your shadow, whether it's ritualizing it, introspection, meditation, or, as in my case, using all of those methods and more that you can find to help you reach within your dark, abyssal shadow self. If you remain self-conscious through the process, you allow these issues, these traumas, these wounds, as they arise within your work, to guide you to the point in the process where you can take self-control. Control over those issues, control over yourself, control over the pain, control over the wounds, control over the behavioral patterns. When you're able to take control of these shadow self-destructive behaviors, then you start to rise to a level of a master. Not a master as in a master teacher, master of organization, master of philosophy, but a master over yourself, which is the most important master that can possibly be. Most of our issues are not on our conscious mind. They're not in the part of the aware, awakened state of existence, meaning that which you're aware of in an everyday situation. The more conscious you become, the more aware you become of the hidden details of things, the more you become conscious of programming, brainwashing, things of that nature. But this kind of work takes you to a level far past the conscious mind. It takes you to a level of your subconscious and unconscious mind. The things that you are not aware of, commonly not aware of, because they become so habitual in your life that you can't even see your self-destructive patterns and behaviors. So, the part of working with the shadows to bring forth the true self, not the created self that you basically created to exist within the society, within a society that has morals, rules, boundaries, limitations, regulations, things of that nature. That you created to survive within this society for whatever reason you felt. You created this present day existence to fit in, to get along, things of that nature. No, this work is taking you to the part of yourself that is not a part of that conditioning, not a part of that programming, but a part of yourself that is almost primordial, meaning existing before that self-created aspect of yourself. What I mean is that In your unconscious mind, subconscious mind, there are parts of yourself that you really are trying to awaken but are afraid to awaken because you're afraid of your own demons. You're afraid of your own problems. You're afraid of a lot of different things. And most of these things come from the 7 core emotional issues. There are more issues than this, but a lot of times, major points of issue is rejection or abandonment. Many of us are afraid to be rejected or abandoned. We go through life trying to fit in a group, trying to fit in your culture, fit into an organization, fit into a religion, fit into some philosophy, fit into something just to be accepted. And unfortunately, we do not understand how detrimental this can be to your growth. Other issues is identity. Where do you fit in? Who are you? What are you? Etc., etc., etc. This identity issue permeates in every part of our existence. Power and control. We all feel that we at times do not have control over our life, control over our present situation. We feel like we're powerless, that we're always being taken advantage of, things of that nature. Acceptance, feeling like we must be accepted, feeling like we must belong, feeling that we need people. See, these core issues surface when we were children. They surface because, let's say, you're a little boy, 5, 6 years old. You just created or finished a puzzle. And you want your daddy's attention. And you want to show daddy because you're so proud of the work you accomplished. And your daddy, when you go to him to show him the puzzle, seems disinterested, distant, and caught up in a football game. It may seem like a minute thing, may seem like a very small thing, but that moment forth, you could have created an issue of abandonment, as even small as that, or an issue of acceptance, not feeling accepted by your own parents. This then starts to snowball the rest of your life, where you will do absurd, crazy, off the wall things to receive acceptance from people. To be accepted. You may be extreme in your nature. That's a cry for help, that you're seeking to be accepted or not rejected. So these patterns continue, which lead you into relationships that could be abusive, sexual situations that could be detrimental. And this continues to snowball over time. The left-hand path, we say, wait a minute. How can I be a complete person? How can I be a master if I do not start at the root of my existence, at the root of my problems? See, people commonly join occult groups, magic groups, things of that nature because they're looking for a quick fix to their problems. They're looking for a quick solution to their problems. Instead of realizing they are the problem. What do I mean by that? Most of the problems in your life were created by you. Whether you realize it or not, you've been creating your life since your childhood. Your mind is a powerful tool. Do not let anyone or anybody tell you anything different. Your mind is a very powerful tool. Your mind can create anything it wants to. And because your subconscious mind works in conjunction with your unconscious and then superconscious or conscious minds, it's a co-creator of your existence. A lot of what's in your subconscious mind can create your present day existence. So let's say I'm desperately seeking attention, and the energy, vibration, and frequency I put out is I want to be accepted. Then people pick up on that. We as humans have the ability, and a lot of times we unconsciously pick up frequencies, vibrations, emotions, things of that nature from a person. You're putting out this desperation feeling that I need to be accepted. I'm tired of being rejected. I just want somebody to love me. Well, here comes along he or she who is a straight predator on weak emotional people. You open yourself up. That individual comes in for the attack. And they start to, in every which way, form, or fashion, they start to wear you down. They start to destroy the very part of yourself. They feed off of your weaknesses. They feed off of your pain. They feed off of every part of your existence. And what happens? You feed right into them. Because you want to be accepted so bad, you feed right into them. They take advantage of you. They use you for your money. They use you for your sex. And then they drop you like a hot potato. Well, people will say that person is evil for using you like that. True. They may not have the right intentions and may be totally malicious in their actions. But the sad part of it, you open the door for it. So unfortunately, by you opening the door, you deserve everything you got. Because you put a blind eye to your true self, giving you the warning. Oh, most of y'all got warnings. 99% of the time you got a warning of a person before you even got involved with them about their nature. You just chose to ignore it because you were seeking love in all the wrong places, seeking sexual gratification to quench or quiet that lonely space within your heart. Left-hand path, we challenge ourselves to overcome the weakest part of ourselves, to identify the weakest part of ourselves, and to go forth with total conviction to master the weakest part of ourselves and learn to transmutate that weakness into a strength. My weakness has always been rage. And at this age now, working this left-hand path, I have more control over my rage than at any other time in my life. I was so rageful that I would snap and become very physically aggressive because somebody cut me off on the road. I had to learn to confront that part of myself and understand where my rage came from. It came from my childhood abandonment issues, my childhood acceptance issues, my childhood lack of power and control issues because of the things that happened to me when I was a young child. The being molested for years by grandfather and my aunt, being used sexually by these individuals. So I felt like I had no power and control in my life, so I had to take power and control back over my life. But the only way I was able to do that was to confront the very weakness that stayed present within my subconscious and unconscious mind. The biggest lie a person can tell you is they have no problems or issues. bull crap. If you're existing on the planet Earth and you're going day to day, you have problems and issues. Because if there was no problems and issues, why are you still here? What is the purpose of you still living on this planet? Wouldn't you have already passed on and translated to some other form of existence, whatever that may be? If you're here, you have problems and issues. I don't care how spiritual you think you are, how much you want to mask it by meditating, how much you want to mask it by doing mantras, how much you want to mask it by doing yoga, how much you want to mask it by learning Kemetic or Cometian principles. Irrelevant. Until you face that dark or shadow side of yourself, you're only going to grow very little. Because that will be the biggest part that rules your life. And you're not even allowing yourself to be brave enough to face it. So when we really get into this work, it's not solely about gratification, meaning, oh, I need money, so let me do money rituals, and you get all this money. That's fine. You need money to exist. You should be, if you are of a high spiritual nature and have been working these paths for years, you should be at a financially successful level by now. Your spirit should reflect into the physical. But if by, let's say you're not, and you're trying to work that, that's fine. You need to have financial success in order to work this path or any other path and to be comfortable in your life, to be able to have no headaches and stress financially so you can concentrate on your spiritual work. You should that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that's not the only reason you should be on this path is for financial success, sexual indulgence and gratification, things of that nature. You should be on this path because you are seeking to master yourself, seeking to be a master over yourself. That is what the left hand path is all about. Challenging yourself to be greater than you were yesterday, to become a master over yourself, over your issues, pains, traumas, wounds, emotional issues than ever before. Darth Bane of the Sith started out as a slave. He had to confront his very weaknesses, his very weak tendencies that allowed him to give life to the slave mentality and accept it. When he started to realize that no chains can bind you unless you let it, he started to break the chains physically, but more importantly mentally, because those are the chains that bind you longer than any physical chain can bind you. And he started to work on the weaknesses within his life. He faced those weaknesses and he promised himself he would never be subjected to slavery or to anybody's will again. He would be the master over self. But to do that, he had to face his weaknesses. He had to face his problems, his lack of aggression. And he faced it and mastered every part of himself to become one of the most powerful Sith to ever exist in the Star Wars universe. He became legendary in his time for being strong enough to face it, master it, control it, and be greater than ever. That is what your purpose should be when you work the shadow self, the dark side, or the left hand path. Is to be able to face every part of that and be able to say, I'm going to go forward and cause a change in my life for the greater. And all those rituals are beneficial and good, but the real rituals should be facing yourself. So how do you do that? How do you do the work of facing yourself? Good question. I've received by many. The first part is to be able to put everything on the table. What do I mean by that? That means be able to dig inside yourself and put all of your crap on the table. What are my strengths? That's the easiest part. What are my weaknesses? Hardest part. What are my behavioral patterns that are beneficial or detrimental? What are my strong emotional issues that are either beneficial or detrimental? Put it all on the table and be brutally, and I mean brutally, honest with yourself. You may have a kinkiness that you are into sexually, but you're embarrassed to tell anybody. You don't have to run out in the street because you're working on yourself and you're learning from yourself and advertise your kinks. It's not necessary, bro or sis. You just work within yourself to learn about that. Meaning you stop burying that, stop repressing that, because whatever you resist will continue to persist regardless of what you think. You stop resisting or repressing that, and you put it on the table for yourself to really admit it. Say it out loud, because it confirms that you're being brave enough to confront your issues and say, this is a kink that I have. And then you do something about it. You either take action about it, or you deal with it by going deeper into it and understanding. If you take action for a purpose. Don't just do it because I want to indulge, get freaky, buck wild, and all of a sudden I lose self-control again and become overly sexualized. No. In the left-hand path, we indulge, but with greater control, conviction, and will. Meaning, yes, I know I have things I want to indulge in sexually, physically, spiritually, mentally. I want to indulge in certain things. But you do it with conviction and control and willed direction. Meaning you're not freestyling and going out there and banging 100 people because you lack the sexual experiences. You are selective more than ever in your life, because this person you choose to interact sexually has to have all of the qualities you're seeking, whatever they may be, before you sexually interact. Some of y'all have taken this and gone extreme. That I know. I've seen. But that's your life. That's your choice. Eventually, all that, everything that has a cause will have an effect. Every cause has an effect. So go freestyle and get buck wild. But you're going to have a consequence for it. That's just reality. On the left-hand path, we realize every action has a consequence. Whether it's beneficial consequence or detrimental. The choice is yours, buddy. So you choose which way you want to take that. But you take it with determined will, conviction, and determination, and you won't freestyle. You won't be banging your brains out. You'll just be literally more selective, but still indulging in the things you've wanted to enjoy, and now more preserving of yourself. So you have to understand the mechanisms that you have to implement while walking the dark side, the shadow self. It is not a path of debauchery. It's not a path of treachery. It's not a path of straight, lewd, and lascivious behavior. That is the Satanist. And the Satanist is about as left-hand path as Ronald McDonald. Okay? They are a rebellious group rebelling against Christianity, although they still use the Christian motifs, just in the opposite reverse order. That is usually the first stage of growth, is rebellion. But you can't rebel your whole life. Come a point in time, you have to graduate past rebellion to maturity and wisdom. That's not the left-hand path. Though people try to associate Satanism and all that with left-hand path, it's not. Because a real person on the left-hand path believes in themselves as the only God and the true God, and no other God or gods or goddesses, devils, Satans exist. They understand those as attributes and metaphors of personalities and behaviors that people can exhibit or embody or become, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion do they believe in a God or a devil outside of themselves. They are the God within themselves. That's the left hand path mentality. So for a Satanist to say, "Hail Satan," praise Satan, you're basically still a freaking Christian, just in reverse, and now worshiping the you're worshiping the adversary. And it's still worship no matter how you look at it. You may like this, you may not agree with it, but wake up and look at yourself and say, damn, I am still back worshiping. I left these things so I wouldn't worship. I walked this left hand path so I would stop worshiping, and you went right back to worship. Now, if you work in this path, you understand the difference between working with an archetype and worshiping an archetype. If I am seeking to do work on a shadow self, and I want to confront, overcome, and master the weakest parts of myself, I have to find what archetype or archetypes are beneficial for that work. Now, an archetype is a symbol, metaphor of a attribute, personality, or power that we as humans possess or can possess. So if I'm seeking to do work that needs to be destructive in nature, destructive insofar as destroys my resistance to doing work, one, destroys my very fear of tapping into my dark side, subconscious, unconscious layers, abyssal layers of myself, then I have to have an archetype that is of destructive nature. An archetype is just looked upon as a symbol, a metaphor, and I keep repeating this for a reason: a symbol, a metaphor of behavioral power or an attribute that we may resonate with. You're not worshiping the archetype, you're resonating with the frequency, vibration, and energy of the archetype through the symbols and what those symbols represent to you within your subconscious, unconscious mind. And they resonate with you because those are things you may be lacking in or seeking to improve in. So I'm seeking to, let's say, overcome and master my weaknesses. But I have blockages and obstacles that prevent me from even getting to that point. I need a destructive archetype. So what are some of the destructive archetypes? For me, one of the most effective destructive archetypes I personally work with is Kali Ma. Kali Ma, the Dravidian or Hindu aspect. Kali Ma, her nature is very strong. Kali Ma is powerful. And it is not something I worship. Kali Ma is not something I worship. Let me say this again. Kali Ma is not something I worship. I'm going to say it one more time. Kali Ma is not something I worship. Huh? Yes. I'm going to keep saying it till you get it. Kali Ma is not something I worship. I keep saying that because you have to understand. We have a habit of worshiping things as human beings. It's one of our biggest weaknesses. As if nothing can happen in your life without some external force influencing your life. That is the most furthest from the truth that you can ever get. And because of that, I think what's happening is that people are missing the real understanding that you resonate with this energy, you work with it, but you don't worship it. Well, Kali Ma would be symbolic of the womb as well as the coffin of humanity. Kali Ma is known as the Dark Mother and can be symbolic of the triple goddess of creation, preservation, and destruction. Most commonly, though, she is known as the destroyer, or that's the aspect we know. She's always depicted as squatting over her dead consort, Shiva, and devouring his entrails, or giving life to him with her yoni or vagina, and sexually bringing his penis back to life in himself. Kali is also symbolic of the earth, which devours its own children and fattens on their corpses. So remember these little attributes as we go forward. It is in India that the experience of the terrible mother has been given its most grandiose form as Kali. But all this is, and it should not be forgotten, is an image only of the feminine, but particularly, specifically of the maternal. For in a profound way, life and birth always bound up with death and destruction. When you work with Kali, you can't work with just life without working and understanding death. That is the most basic and most important part of working with Kali or any destructive archetype. Whether it's Sekhmet of the Commission aspect, whether it's Set or Satuh of the Commission aspect of the isolated consciousness, whether it's Oya of the Yoruba, Ifa, Lukumi, Santeria aspect, whether it's Shango, Ogun of the Yoruba, Ifa, Lukumi, Santeria aspect, whether it's Gede and Baun Samdi, Baun Lakwa of the Voodoo, Voodoo or Voodoo aspect. It is important to understand what the destruction or destructive symbolism means and how it resonates with you as you go forth to do the work. Right now we're dealing with Kali. Those are just some of the destructive archetypes out there that you may want to consider working with if you really need to overcome obstacles, blockages, to get to the root of the matter and start to really do the work to master your weaknesses and heal yourself. So Kali was the basic archetypal image of birth and death, the mother, simultaneously the womb and tomb, giver of life and devourer of her children. The same image portrayed in 1,000 ancient religions. So understand this. In Tantra, the Tantric worshippers of Kali thought it is essential to face her curse, the terror of death, as willingly as they accepted blessings from the energy of her beautiful, nurturing, maternal aspect. For them, wisdom meant learning that no coin has only one side. As death can't exist without life, so also life can't exist without death. Kali sages communed with her in the grisly atmosphere of the cremation ground to become familiar with the images of death. This is what her devotees said. His goddess, his loving mother in time, who gives him birth and loves him in the flesh, also destroys him in the flesh. His image of her is incomplete if he does not know her as his terror and devourer. She will devour you and tear you to pieces. It's important to understand because the symbolism basically means that she is tearing apart your weaknesses, your resistance to fight those weaknesses, your resistance to overcome your weaknesses, you're destroying your fears, and all the things that hold you from doing the true work. Once those things are torn apart, then your weaknesses are self evident. Then comes the work of the maternal part, the nurturing and transforming part. But you have to get to the destructive force first and work this consistently. Some of y'all have done 1 or 2 rituals and give up on working with the destructive archetypes to try to overcome your weaknesses. It doesn't work that way. You have 40 something years of bullcrap in your life that's going to take you some time to get overcome those weaknesses. It's going to take you years to overcome if you're in the 40s. If you're in the 30s, it's going to take you years. In your 20s, it's going to take you years. It may take less time, but it's still you're in your 20s. It means you've lived a life and you've created habits and patterns that are detrimental. You're going to have to do the work. 6 months, 3 to 6 months is a good enough time to start really getting results. If you can't work with this consistently for 3 to 6 months, give up. You're weak already. You already can't face your weaknesses. You're even weaker if you can't be disciplined enough to work 3 to 6 months. Just give it up. Period. This is the stuff that it just gets me. People want to be so powerful, so divine, they're weak. You can't even get past being disciplined. You on any path, especially the left-hand path, you need to be disciplined. And to be disciplined, that means you have to have willpower. And if your willpower is weak, you ain't never going to accomplish jack crap. Serious, dead up, dead ass. One of Kali's main symbolism is destroying demons. But you have to understand when this resonates with you, when this symbolism hits you, it is destroying your self-created demons. The demons that you created, the monsters you created within your subconscious mind because of your fears, your traumas, your wounds. Listen, you could have seen your father abuse your mother and shortly after had a nightmare where you created a demon in your mind that wanted to kill and destroy you because your dad was doing that to your mom and started to try to abuse you. And so your dad became the demon in the dream, and we lost that connection and association that's where that demon came from. This demon wreaks havoc in your life all your years of existence unless you notice and realize that. Kali stood for existence, which meant becoming because all her world was in an internal living flux from which all things rose and disappeared again in the endless cycles. The gods whom she bore and devoured addressed her thus. They said that she is one of the original manifestations, the birthplace of us, knowing the whole world, yet none now know her the way they once did. She is the primordial Kalika, resuming after dissolution, thine own form, dark and formlessness, thou alone remainest as one, ineffable and inconceivable. Though thyself without beginning, multiform, by the power of Maya, thou art the beginning, the protectress and the destructress. Now, the gods or archetypes are merely constructs out of Kali's maternal substance, which is both consciousness and potential joy. You have to understand, if I'm working with Kali, I have to understand these attributes. I have to understand these meanings. For example, as the primal, deep, or menstrual ocean of blood, at creation, Kali was certainly the same. Kali represents formlessness between manifested universes. She also would be symbolic of the great Blue River goddess. She's also responsible for the Kundalini female serpent. You have to understand all these symbolisms when you work with Kali. She's responsible for languages, creating the magic letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, and inscribed them on the rosary skulls around her neck. These letters contain powers of magic because they stood for primordial creative energy expressed in sound. So when you're working and you are, let's say, doing a mantra, and you do the bija or the root seed of Kali, cream, 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 you could extend it. Cream, cream. You could shorten it. Cream, cream. You do that 108 times. What's happening is that you're starting to embody the energy of Kali. Not the god, energy, meaning the attributes, the powers, the strengths, the symbolism of Kali all starts to be embodied or encompassed within yourself, and you start to understand what the power of destruction is, what the power of formlessness is, the power of creation is. And you start to transform yourself from within the root seed because you're becoming Kali, the energy of Kali in a symbolic form, meaning you're doing the destructive work, overcoming and busting through your blockages, your obstacles, busting through the ignorance and the limitations we put on ourselves, the behavior and the social programming. And then you start to create again. That is how we work with this on a left-hand path. That is how we work the shadow self on a left-hand path, the dark side on a left-hand path. When you're able to do that, then you're able to cause a change. Causing a change is necessary for really transforming the self. You have to understand you're responsible for yourself. No one is responsible for you. You're responsible for yourself. So when you're doing this destructive work of Kali, you are being responsible for self, meaning you're becoming the self of Kali or the Kali self. You are embodying that frequency, the vibration, the characteristics, the attributes, and the power to be that energy and to use it to transform the self, being responsible for yourself. You're not worshiping Kali, giving her fruits and offerings. You are Kali. You are doing the work to be Kali. And no one or no thing can tell you otherwise because the work is taking place within the subconscious and the subjective realm, which is your personal realm. Subjective universe is your personal universe, and you have to do the work to be the master of that subjective universe so you can reflect it into the objective universe, create a new life in the objective universe, and cause change and transformation in the objective universe. But you have to take that control. So to me, one of the archetypes that I most work with for this path of working with the dark side, the shadow self, of working with overcoming behavioral patterns, emotional traumas, issues, that is one of the most powerful archetypes is Kali. It gave you some symbolism and attributes of what she represents. Now, the last step is to give you a ritual. I have a ritual here that I've created that is very powerful. If those individuals that feel they need it, they've tried things, they want to use it, fine. Hit me up at darkoccultist99 at outlook.com. I'll share that with you. No charge. It's free. However, what I will say is personalize it and don't do it exactly the way I have it written. Personalize it, because then you put in your energy and stamp on it, which will be more effective in your work. But I have a very effective Kali ritual that will help you in that work if that's what you need. But I'm going to give you a simple Kali ritual. This comes from Val Cadman and Kali Mantra Magic, which is a must for those on the left hand path. It's a must book for those who want to work with Kali. But basically, you want to destroy the enemy's demons within and the enemy's demons without. But most importantly, work always from within first and then outward. See, this is Val Cadman's, but I change it up. He gives a specific day to do it. I say any day is the right day to do it, because any day is the day your spirit is feeling doing the work, which is going to resonate and be stronger with you. He says use a silver candle. I use the color black and red. I take a Kali statue or image, put it in the center of my altar, and around that part of that altar where she's at the center, the red and black candle on the side, I design my altar to fit the attributes of Kali. I put skulls there, tombstones there, coffins there, because she's also known as the goddess of death and destruction. So you create the environment of what that archetype is known for. So I put all these symbols of death, skulls, tombstones, coffins, crows, images of snakes, all these things associated with Kali. I put it there. Symbolism. All the symbolism is activating parts of my subconscious mind to really do the work, to really awaken parts of myself that are basically suppressed, repressed, or dormant. I open my circle. Once I prepare that, I open my circle. Counterclockwise. Left hand path, we always do things counterclockwise. Against the adversary of the right hand path and the traditional way of doing things, we are going to do it differently. Plus, counterclockwise, symbolic of going deep into your subconscious mind, deep within yourself. So you do it as a spiral staircase going downward into your subconscious. I do the north, I do the west, the south, and the east, activating the element of the different elements: earth, fire, water, air. Kali is also known as a earth goddess because of the cremation grounds and of the blood she seeped on the earth from destroying the demons. Blood is symbolic of dried earth. All of this is why whatever angle, whatever position you want to attribute to north, east, south, west, that's your choice. Whatever element you want to attribute, you activate the 4 elements. And then walk around the circle 3 to 9 times, contemplating what the work is at hand. When you're done, face Kali. You chant Om Krim Kali, get mala beads. 108 times you chant Om Krim Kali. You do that 108 times. Sit, meditate, hear what's coming forth. Write it down in your journal. Close the ritual. Try that. But if you want more, hit me up at darkcultist99 at outlook.com and I'll send you more. There's also rituals for Sekhmet that I work with. There's rituals for Set that I work with. Rituals for Shango, Oya, and Ogun I work with. You have to find what you resonate with. But that is the work of the shadow self, and that is the work that is most important on the left-hand path, because without that being taken care of, you will always be stunted in your growth and only go so far because your issues will keep rising and affecting you. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. Well, joining me this evening on TalkShoe.com, Awakening Universal Minds. We have our guest, Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum, author of many books, more known for his profound work on dark light consciousness. Dark Light Consciousness by Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum is a beginning manual for those seeking to walk on the left hand path, especially the African Kemetic melanated left hand path that I mostly work with. My brother Beniti mostly works with. It is a beginner's guide and essential for those walking on the left hand path. He will be on the show tonight, starting at 9 p.m. Awakening Universal Minds on TalkShoe.com. Check us out. If you've read the book, definitely come and ask some questions. And we will catch you tonight. And peace.